Hi, kids. Today, we've got the really exciting job of taking on inverse operations. I know that y'all have talked about inverse operations before in first, second, and third grade, but now in fourth grade, we're really going to take on this learning and we're going to be using it with much bigger numbers so that we can make sure as mathematicians we are being as accurate as we can be with our equations and solving them. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to take an addition problem of any kind of digits, 1, 2, 3, 4 multi-digits, and you should be able to double check your addition by creating an inverse or subtraction equation and double check your work. So let's talk about the word inverse and operations. So inverse simply means the opposite. So the inverse of addition is subtraction. What that means is subtraction undoes your addition. We'll talk about that in a minute. And because we'll be starting multiplication soon, it's important to know that the inverse of multiplication is division. And it's really important to know these because number one, it helps you check your work. Number two, as you get further into math, you are going to need to know how to undo different things in your math equation. It's really interesting, and it's called algebra. And we are actually going to be doing a small bit of algebra today. So put your mathematician thinking cap on, and let's get started. So we're going to warm up our brains. Okay, and we're going to warm up our brains with three rather straightforward addition problems. And then we're going to learn how to set up the inverse operation, the subtraction problem, that will help us double check our work. So here we go. I'm going to add 10 plus 3. And as we add, for this first one, I just want to give you a reminder. I'm going to draw a line right between my digits because it's important to notice that we still need to use place value to keep our work accurate. So for instance, we have the number 10 and the number 3. Well, we know the number 10 put in a place value, the 0 is in the 1's position and the 1 is in the 10's position. Likewise, down here, the 3 is in the 1's position, but there's nothing in the 10's position. When we get down here and we add, every position can only have one digit. If it has 2 digits, you've got to carry the other digit. And we're going to see that here in a minute. So we'll do some simple addition. 0 ones plus 3 ones equals 3. So we write that down. 110 plus no 10s is 110. So 10 plus 3 is 13, and we know that's the correct answer. But now we are going to learn how to put it in an inverse equation. So you start from the bottom in an inverse, and you simply work your way up. So we start with our sum, and that was 13. And I'm going to give my digits room, and that's going to be really important for subtraction, because that room is going to help us borrow. So 13. Now I change my addition sign to subtraction, because remember, we're doing the inverse. So subtract, and I'm going to subtract 3. So I'm going to write that right there. And now I can do the subtraction problem. 3 minus 3 is 0. 1 minus 0 is 1. So my answer here is 10. Your top number from that side should match your answer here. If these two don't match up, then what that means is there's been a math error somewhere, so we need to go back and we need to double check. So now we're going to come over to 16 plus 12, and let's go ahead and add it together. We know that 6 ones plus 2 ones is 8 ones, so we write down our 8. And then 110 plus 110 is 2 tens. All right, so our sum or our answer is 28. Now we're going to write our inverse. So again, we start at the bottom and we work our way up. So we write 28. Again, I'm going to give myself room and we'll see why in a minute. And I'm going to subtract 12. So I write minus 12. Now notice, I am being very particular about keeping my place values lined up. If you get off on your place value, it will make your math incorrect. So just take the time to write real neatly. Okay, 8 minus 2 is 6, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So this is my answer here, and we're going to make sure that top number matches the bottom number, and look, it does. So we did our math correctly. Let's do one more that's pretty straightforward. Okay, now this is where we need to remember that only one digit can go in each place value position. So we have 9 plus 2, and we know that 9 plus 2 is 11. So I go 9, 10, 11. I cannot put 11 there because this is only one place value position. Again, if I put my place value line in, I can see, wait, I know I can't put 2 digits there. So I only put the ones digit. So 11, I put 1, and then I carry the 1 up here. Anytime you write a number above another number, it means you are going to add it. So 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 41. Well, let's write our inverse and double check and make sure that we actually did that correctly because we had to carry, and we always want to make sure that we've done that accurately. So I'm going to take my 46, again, I'm just moving up. So I take 41 and I'm going to subtract 12. Okay, now I know I cannot take 1 from 2. Here, I have 1 pencil. I have 2 friends who need a pencil. Do I have 2 pencils to give away? No, I only have 1, so I can't do that subtraction. So now I need to do what's called borrowing. It's a type of regrouping. I'm going to use the word borrowing even though you know it's regrouping because when your parents help you out with this, they learned it as borrowing. So when you get your parents to help, I want you to understand that they're talking about the same thing, borrowing and regrouping. So I'm going to cross out my 4 because that's where I'm going to take my digit from. And I'm going to turn that into a 3. And I'm going to add the 1 I borrowed right here in front of my 1. And now I have 11 minus 2. And 11 minus 2 is 9. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So now I'm going to double check. And I want to make sure that the top number and the number I got there is right. Now let me show you what I just did. To make it a little more clear, I had my answer here, 41. Okay, and I'm going to use a different color. And I'm subtracting 12. Okay, now watch how I did this. I want to borrow from this 4, but we know that this 4 actually means 40. So I'm actually borrowing 10. That's why when I cross out my 4, and now I only have 3 tens, I take that 1 10. If I put my 1 up here, remember, that means I have to add it. So we don't ever in subtraction want to put that number above there. The 10 that we borrowed, we put right here in front because it literally goes in that tens. 11, right? And then 11 minus 2 is 9, and 3 minus 1 is 2. So when you're doing subtraction, it is really important to give your numbers room and to make sure that when you borrow that number, put it in front of the digit that you're adding it to. That way you know to subtract the whole number. Great job. Now we are going to enter into what is called a variable with inverse operations. So here we go. Inverse operations helps you solve a variable. Now, a variable is this letter right here, the letter A. And the reason we do a letter is because we don't know that number. So we could also write it like this if we wanted to. What plus 5 equals 8. The letter and the question mark, they're going to equal the same thing for what we're talking about right now. So if thinking about it that way helps you, go for it. So we need to find out what the A is. Well, this is where that inverse operation is going to solve the problem for us. So the first thing we do anytime we have a problem like this is called linear, because see how it's written in a line? We don't want to do math in a line. We want to stack it. So I rewrite it stacked. So A plus 5 equals 8. Now this is much easier to work with when it's stacked like this. So I'm simply going to write the inverse operation for this equation, okay? Again, starting at the bottom and working our way up. I'm going to write down 8, and I know the inverse of addition is subtraction, so 8 minus, the next one is 5, and now I can solve. 8 minus 5 is 3. So A equals 3. And let's come back over here. Is 3 plus 5 8? It sure is. So we did it right. Let's try another one. Now, I changed the variable on this one. It's not A, it's B. The fun thing with variables is right now in 4th grade, we can use different letters to represent this space that we don't know. So our equation this time is B plus 12 equals 23. Well, I know this is linear and I'm not solving anything in linear, so I'm going to rewrite it stacked. So B plus 12 equals 23. All right, well that's great, but that doesn't actually really help me solve this problem. I need to write my inverse equation. So I start at the bottom and work my way up. I start with 23. And again, because I'm doing subtraction, I am going to give my digits a little bit of room. Minus 12. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. So B equals 11. Now we need to double check this for sure to make sure that this fits in correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. Okay, so I'm going to put 11, because that's what we said B equaled, plus 12. I'm going to add it together, and 1 plus 2 is 3, and 1 and 1 is 2. And these equal each other, so we did it right. Great job, guys. All right, let's keep pushing our brains. Now we are going to do some larger multi-digit numbers. And as you can tell, this first one is 3 digits. So let's go over the place value positions. We have the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. So let's go ahead and let's add them up. 4 plus 3 is 7. What is 2 plus 9? That's right, it's 11. But I know I can only write down one of those digits. So I'm going to write down my ones digit. So 2 plus 9 is 11. I write down the 1, and I carry my 1 up there. And you'll see me put a plus sign. That just reminds me to add. And that will come in handy when we get to multiplication. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 5 is 8. Now, the way I teach my students is you draw an arrow and you write INV. This means inverse, and what this is showing is that this is going to be the inverse operation for this equation. So Let's write it. We start at the bottom and we go up. So we start with our sum, 817, and we're going to subtract right here 593. Notice I give my digits some space because I'm about to do subtraction and I might need it. So 7 minus 3 is 4. Again, 1 minus 9, I have 1 pencil, but I have 9 friends. I don't have enough pencils to go around. That means I can't do this subtraction. So I'm going to go next door and I'm going to borrow. And I cross out my 8 and I'm going to write in a 7. Okay, now I'm going to bring that over here and I'm going to put that 1 that I have in front of my other one. And 11 minus 9 is 2. And then 7 minus 5 is 2. And now I want to check and make sure this top number matches the bottom. And they do, so we did it correctly. Great job. Let's increase it one more time. Now let's go to 4 digits. Let's talk about the place value positions we have here. We have the ones, we have the tens, we have the hundreds, and we have the thousands. So if I'm going to estimate, just because we've been working on that, and so I can kind of check myself when I do my work, I go 1,000 and 2,000. Well, it should be somewhere maybe 3,000-ish, 4,000. I know it's not going to be in the hundreds because both of these are in the thousands and I'm adding. So my estimation is going to have to be higher. So let's go ahead and add these together. 5 plus 5 is 10. So I'm going to write down that 0 and I'm going to carry my 1. 1 plus 9, 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to carry it. You can write your plus signs. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 5 is 8. Always put in your comma. And then 1 plus 2 is 3. Now we're going to check our work by writing our inverse operation, starting with our sum. I'm going to do our arrow so that we know we're talking about the inverse. So we take our 3,000, always use your commas, 840, and we are going to subtract 2,545. I'm going to get that all written down nice and neat with plenty of space. And now I'm going to solve this. Whoa, I can't take 5 away from nothing, so I need to borrow. So I'm going to come over to my 4, and I'm going to cross it out, and I'm going to make it a 3. And then I'm going to put that 1 I borrowed right in front. And now I've got 10, and 10 minus 5 is 5. Whoop, I'm going to have to borrow again. I can't take 3 away, or 4 away from 3. So I'm going to come to my 8, cross it out, make it a 7, and put that 1 in front of my 3. And now I have 13 minus 4. And 13 minus 4 is 9. 7 minus 5, I can do that. And 7 minus 5 is 2. Always put in your comma where you need it. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So this is what I ended up with. And again, I want to make sure that top number matches. And hey, it does. We did it again. Now we're going to try one a little bit different. We have a 4-digit number, and to it we're only adding a 2-digit number. So let's see where this leads us. 5 plus 6 is 11. So I'm going to write that first one down, and I'm going to carry that other one. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 9 is 10, so I'm going to write my 0 down again, and again I'm going to carry my 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Got to put in my comma, and 3 plus 0 is 3. Now let's do our inverse check. do my arrow so that I can keep track of what my math is. Start at the bottom. So with my sum, which was 3,101, and notice I'm giving my numbers room, and I'm going to subtract 96. And so I need to make sure that my 96 is lined up over here correctly. So when I line it up, I'm going to start with what I know is the ones, and then that 9 belongs in the tens. So let's go ahead and subtract. Oh, okay. Well, we can't take cents from 1. We've been talking about this, so we're going to have to borrow. So I'm going to go next door to borrow. Wait a minute. I can't borrow from nothing. So I got to go down one more. So I come next door, and I'm going to borrow from this one because it's my first non-zero digit. It's a 0 now, which makes this one, remember, the one I borrow, I put next to the number. But I still have to borrow for my 1 here, so I'm going to cross it out. That's now a 9, and now I put that 1 right here. I just walked it down, and 11 minus 6 is 5. 9 minus 9 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. I put in my comma, and 3 minus 0 is 3. And then we are going to make sure that these two match, and they do. Now let's talk about what I did right here in our subtraction problem with the borrowing or the regrouping. So I had 3,101, and I subtracted 96 from it. So let me show you just to help make sure it's very clear. So first, I can't borrow from 0, so I have to come over here. Cross that out. And so that is now itself a 0 because I don't have any more. And so I need to take the 1 that I borrowed here and I need to put it on the next number. Okay? Well, here's the thing. I still can't subtract 6 from 1. But now I have 10 right here and I can borrow from 10. So for that, I'm going to cross out my 10 and it's now a 9. And I'm going to put that 1 right there, the 1 that I just borrowed. And then again, it's straightforward subtraction. So we have 5, 0, 0, comma, 3. And that's how we get to our answer. That is how you do inverse operations. The important thing with inverse operations is, number 1, take your time, okay? Number 2, rewrite any linear or any equations that go in a line across the page. You want to write it stacked so it goes down the page. That really will help you with your accuracy. When you go from your addition to your inverse problem, you want to do the arrow with I and V over it. That just signals that's your math thinking so that when I look at it, I can go, oh, look, Charisse was showing me that she is working out, checking her math. That helps me as a teacher, and it will help you as a mathematician ensure that you are accurate. The next thing about inverse operations is if we see a variable, we remember that the inverse operation is how we will solve and get what that variable is. Guys, if you see a variable, remember, don't get worried. It's the same thing as a question mark. Up here we had 10 plus 3 equals 13. Well, if I wanted to, I could have written it as 10 plus 3 equals A. It means the same thing. So when you're working with variables and inverse operation, remember, you already know how to do this. Don't let the letter throw you off. The last thing to remember when you are doing inverse operations to check your work, you want to make sure your numbers are neatly lined up, and you want to give your digits space. We do not want to do math like this. 5 plus 2,545. There is no way. See? We can't read it because it's so teeny tiny and nothing is lined up. That would be incorrect math. No, please don't do that kind of math. No. We want to do math that's nice and clear and precise. Precision is a mathematician's friend. Don't feel silly about writing your numbers big. Writing your numbers big will actually help you be accurate. And the more consistently accurate you are, then you can start making your numbers a little bit smaller. So practice this. Have fun with your task today. Remember, inverse operations just mean the opposite. The inverse of addition is subtraction, and the inverse of subtraction is addition. The inverse of multiplication is division, and the inverse of division is multiplication. Work hard, take your time, be neat in your writing, and enjoy your math.